Hi, Chandru.
Hi, hello, sir.
Hi. So, I have a few questions about certain terms that are being used today. In the environment, and one of the terms that is being used widely is about vibe coding. So, I want to understand from you what exactly is vibe coding.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think vibe coding is now the word of the year. Uh, Almost every developer worldwide, and even a non-developer or what we call as business people, are adapting to vibe coding in a big way. Vibe coding as a term was made famous by Andrej Karpathy, one of the leading artificial intelligence experts. He had mentioned, if I recall correctly, in a tweet or on the x.com uh, site, and people rapidly took to that. So, in a very simple way, it refers to prompting the artificial intelligent agent to develop apps, uh, website apps, or mobile apps or websites. And it has slowly evolved today to mean that you can just chat in simple English and achieve more sophisticated technical work. So let's say you want to develop a website. um, Earlier we used to sort of use a lot of HTML, CSS, and other types of coding, JavaScript. Now it is possible to do a lot of this work by just inputting in like a chat interface with you know uh, these various agents, right? As we go along, I'll also mention about some of these agents. So that's sort of the background of what is vibe coding and how it originated.
Okay, so very interesting. But I know you're a founder who has been using vibe coding quite extensively. So, is it as easy as it sounds to do?
Okay, see, as with any new technology, there is a right, there are multiple stages for a technology to get matured. And we are seeing that with rapidly with the artificial intelligence field. And what you are raising is a very important question, and it's actually turned out to a big debate on many social media channels as well, and even between some of the top experts. Now, we, I would say, are probably at the very, very initial stages. So is it easy? Yes, it is quite easy. Is it tough? Actually speaking, ironically, it is also tough at the same time, and people are finding that out, right? And the what we call as the old guard, right? I mean, the developers who spent many years, they sort of are not what you can call convinced that this can develop more sophisticated apps, let's say connect to databases and come out with, let's say, e-commerce sites and more sophisticated functionality. So the whole thing around vibe coding has been that people have started trying. These agents are also improving as we keep developing, and it's today possible to actually come up with quite, I would say, very modern looking websites, more I would say website pages, probably even apps, right? But in terms of maturity, it stops there. Afterwards, vibe coders do face a lot of challenges in terms of new bugs coming up. The agent is not able to really think through very complicated sequences or, let's say, computational logic, and that's where we stand today. So more, I would say, if you ask me from a very practical hands-on basis, I would say that you start using it and start finding it out, and you decide to what level you would want to use it, right? So in fact, that is why we at Smartmaya actually developed what is called as the vibe coding framework, so that it's easy for people to actually, let me see if I can just show you that, right? Just give me a second, if I could just come up with,
Sure.
just give me a second as I bring up my so this has been practically on our experience, right? What are the challenges we faced? what are the sort of tools that we have used, what's the sort of bugs we have faced over a period of time. So it's all based on only those. I actually decided to actually create it as a framework. Right now, of course, the framework itself will undergo changes over a period of time, over the next few months and few years. However, this will give people a very good sort of foundation to get started off with this whole vibe coding framework, right? So if I could just show you that, I'm just trying to share my screen, just bear with me. I just opened a lot of tabs for my vibe coding, so it obviously takes its own sweet time before it sort of comes up, right? Okay, I think I got it. Okay, I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously when you look at what is vibe coding, we call it as the prime vibe coding framework, right? And we are just trying to slowly scroll through and understand what is the vibe coding framework. So this is essentially to empower busy executives, right? How do you create web and mobile apps or tools without writing a single line of code? What does prime really help you to do? You can visualize your idea. You should define a consistent look and feel. You should assemble a feature one at a time. You should be able to go live on your own domain. And then, of course, maintenance and improvement over a period of time. And let's say you want to buy some software so that your business operations become more efficient and you want to become more effective, or your employees or team members want to be more efficient in the way they work with your business processes. So you naturally tend towards saying that, hey, can I buy a CRM, or how do I schedule appointments for my sales team, or how do I send a questionnaire? Prime actually gives you a playbook. Now, this sort of a playbook is not generally available, obviously, because it's the whole vibe coding framework is quite new in the market. However, our objective itself is to say that we need to build this as a framework so that you can be very confident because you're deploying it in your business, right? So we're not trying to do some research. We're not just trying to do some school project here. This is meant for serious business folks. So first is the principles. How do you really want your app to look and feel, right? Obviously, you want to be more professional, and at the same time, you want your product to be more consistent, right? I mean, you don't want some page to be in some blue in color, other page to be in green in color, and your fonts and your things. I mean, people will feel out of place. Next comes the concept of reusability. What is the building blocks that you really use again and again, so that you actually save a lot of time and effort? And also in terms of what the sort of interactions, saying that, hey, when there is a certain activity, what should the app really do, right? So for example, can I allow somebody to input some data, and when they input a data, do you want some analysis to be done, or do you want a pie chart to be shown, or do you want some temporary window to come in, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen in modern websites a lot of actions happening on the screen. Next is also in terms of what's the sort of milestones. Now, we should all understand that given the stage where artificial intelligence is, you can't just give one small prompt and expect, which unfortunately is where people sort of are very critical about AI, right? It might happen this year, maybe next year, I do not know. But the more serious folks are more going to look at saying that how do they adapt themselves to how AI can think, process, and of course execute on all of this. So we have the concept of milestones, saying that how do I really build one feature at a time and it's meaningful to my business, right? So if I take the example of CRM, you first want to obviously start with contact management. You don't immediately jump into, let's say, I want to go into pipeline stages, right? So you have to be very clear about your business processes and what makes sense to you in terms of priority. And then, of course, what is the evolution? How do I really maintain it over a period of time? This is also important from the perspective that, let's say you face some challenges. You've really done some effort for 2 3 days, and you're not happy with it. You can't just delete it like you do a Microsoft Word document or a PowerPoint presentation. What you precisely have to do is you have to revert it. And to revert it, you need to know what you have done when. While many of the white coding tools allow for this, but it's better that you maintain your own evolution over a period of time. So, in a sense, if you look at it, the objective for us is the framework allows you to capture your idea, define your look and feel first, then do repeatable loops for different features. Once you are comfortable with this, then you look at more sophisticated ones in terms of how do I set up user authentication, how do I release it to the public, how do I do hosting of this website or app, what sort of domain should I buy, and then of course how do I actually track, learn and evolve over a period of time, right? So I use, for example, Notion for a lot of this tracking this diaries and iterate. Probably others could come up with their own, maybe even a physical diary, right? So essentially, why this is a very nice framework is because while AI is quite hyped up at this point of time, but at the same time, we should understand small business owners don't have time, right? I mean, I'm sure you understand that as a small business owner, right?
Yes.
You don't have all the technical expertise with you. You have very, very limited budgets on a daily basis, right? And the biggest fear is I don't want to be like subjected to a big monolith software which determines how I run. It should be the reverse, right? The software should assist my business rather than the software trying to dictate. And every day morning, I am forced to do certain work as per the software, right? So we set out with clearly how do I help such a small business owner. We said we should, the steps also should be in plain English, right? So I didn't set out to set up a technical manual, right? Of course, it can be used by developers as well. But fundamentally, we want to give the confidence to people who want to try out things themselves. I mean, while I say business owners, I'm also talking about you could be a vice president of marketing and you want to help your team build up certain stuff. And this is exactly how you can, use the Prime vibe coding framework, just plain English. And at the same time, modular progress. So you don't do something very risky and you don't get lost in the complexity. And the what you can call developers always famously call this as you are just running through what is called as the rabbit hole. As you can see the words disappearing out over here, for a period of time you will forget what you have actually been coding, and sort of you get into all sorts of complexity and confusion, right?
Very true. Yeah.
And also in terms of what sort of safety nets that you need to have so that you don't sort of lose the advantage of being ahead in your specific industry or ecosystem or even the country where you're working in. At the same time, it's safe that you don't sort of lose the work, or you don't lose the effort you put over a period of time, right? So we should appreciate those who actually want to dip their toes into artificial intelligence. It shows that they want to be successful in their business and have a competitive advantage. But at the same time, as I said, the technology is quite new. So you got to be very sort of smart in terms of how you actually use this. So we have a very, sort of detailed sort of playbook on our website for Smartmaya.ai in the blog section, where we actually figure out as to how do you develop a simple CRM for a real estate agency. And it actually helps you go step by step in terms of how this whole framework can help you build up a CRM. Now, it could be a real estate agency, you could even be a reseller, or as I said, you could be a department in an MNC. But this will give you confidently how you would want to develop your apps or a website or anything as part of your digital transformation journey, right? And you could do this as pilots, proof of concepts, or even part of your center of excellence. And you could then sort of use the Prime vibe coding framework to achieve all of this, right? So what we also have given as an additional bonus for people is, while there's a Prime framework, and we also have given the playbook itself. Once you combine both of these, you get a North Star and a practical path for doing all of this, right? So we also develop our own apps, Smartmaya.ai and all of them, using the prime vibe coding framework, right? So if I actually take you take this thing to show, okay, I quickly switched over to our content hub, which talks about all the tools and services that we really have for Smart Maya. So we have about 300 plus tools, AI tools, which give confidently a business owner, entrepreneur, any business professional can automate their routine tasks. You can even create your own what you can call agents, right? So that some of the top ones are in terms of presentation, create your own PowerPoints, or you can create your own viral LinkedIn posts. You can actually get a free CRM and a lead generation mechanism out over here, right? So there's a quite a bit of things. As you can see, none of this was hand coded. I mean, what do you think? Have you seen something like this, like just with plain simple English? In fact, I
Mm.
didn't even give the content. I've just vibe coding using tools like Bolt, Versal V0, Lovable, and did lot of very interesting uh, research. And I was very surprised to see how it was reflecting my own thought process from a more strategic perspective, and the sort of user interface, the UI as we call it, right, to be more consistent and build up these sort of pages. And today I'm actually experimenting to say that, hey, can I, for example, create a complete programmatic SEO method through which, for example, can I display 5,000 pages without physically creating them,
Oh, that's
right?
amazing because this really sounds like magic using vibe coding.
Yeah, I mean, that's a feeling everybody gets, the wow moment, saying that, oh, I mean, is it really possible to do all of these things, right? So if I, for example, if I sort of look at what are the what you can call menu items which are here. I mean, I didn't do any coding out here. I sort of asked it saying that, hey, can you actually be consistent with the design, and probably could you also create these sort of various nice pages, and this is my objective. Not a line of code was used, and to my surprise, I could see that I myself, I mean, I do have background in computer science, but I didn't do a development because obviously I was researching on how vibe coding works. And you could actually see that not just simple web pages, but I could actually also develop like these sort of directories with filters mechanisms, where things get picked up based on the words that are used out over here, right? And I could just click on something, and you would see that it actually starts only showing those which I have clicked on. You see, usually this requires quite a decent amount of coding for you to achieve all of this, the, as I said, the computational logic. And I've been able to successfully do this for across this, and as you can see, the look and feel is consistent, right? So I think I've been talking for some time, so yeah, open to you for your questions.
Right. So thank you so much for sharing the Prime framework. I'm sure our listeners would find that to be a big advantage to follow that framework and help them through the coding process. But that just brings, I mean, it's magical using vibe coding. But one question that's coming to my mind is for someone who's trying to get into vibe coding, do they really need to have a technical depth in coding to get started?
This is always an interesting question, right? And I would rather sort of give a more philosophical, large scale answer to that. See, any amount of technical depth is quite welcome. All that AI has done today, and the concept of vibe coding is, it has reduced the requirement of, I would say, how technical you need to be to achieve, let's say, simple tasks. So if you want to just today create a nice looking website, a page, and I forgot to mention, actually, vibe coding is also extending into vibe marketing, but maybe we'll sort of tackle the topic in a separate podcast. But
Sure.
if you really look at vibe coding, it helps you with all the technical tools, and the sky is the limit. And I do find non-technical folks, but who are good in that domain, salespeople, chemistry professors, marketers, they have enthusiastically adopted, and they've been able to come up with some very good ideas, crazy ideas. And some of them actually have also like sort of started earning revenue in the millions of dollars. Some of them actually sold also. I recently heard one of them actually sold it for some 8 million or so, a wipe coded tool in less than 6 months. So obviously nobody's going to pay you 8 million for something which is
Right.
not sophisticated and good, right? Now, how much of a depth? As I said, every bit of technical expertise is very good with vibe coding, because as the generations are very apt to say, right, we can take it to the really next level. But that doesn't stop you, as I said, to achieve a lot of things. I would rather say start experimenting, because the AI and the LLMs and the whatever agents and technology behind all of this is daily improving, right? So it's like, if you know it, it's better. If you don't know it, doesn't really, sort of stop you from achieving what you want, right? Know the limitations, use the vibe coding framework. I think you are all good to go on vibe coding.
Thank you, Chandru. I think that will be really good input for all of those who are exploring and want to get into vibe coding. And good thing is, as Chandru said, you just start experimenting, just get started, and especially those who are, even those who are non-technical, if you want to develop using your subject matter expertise to come up with an app which may be useful for your domain. As Chandru said, just get started and experiment. So, thank you so much, Chandru, for sharing all your views and your experience in the process of vibe coding. And we hope to get some more information and inputs from you as we go along in our series. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Just before we sort of leave this spot, I will just maybe, if I have the screen, I will just quickly show, because at the end of the day, nothing like showing people on the screen as to what. So I'll just probably take only one sample,
Sure.
and those who want to get started off, right? So on the screen, you would see um a tool called Lovable. Lovable is today one of the topmost tools for vibe coding. And as you are seeing the text which is running out over here, you can just ask Lovable to create an internal tool, a dashboard, a website. You can actually create a lot of very stunning websites and tools using Lovable, right? Uh, and the good thing is they give you some free credits, so you can, without paying money, you can get started off. Probably do a lot of sites. As I'm just slowly scrolling and I'm trying to show it to you, the sky is the limit. You're only going to be limited by your imagination, and you're seeing everything from crypto trading sites being created to probably more in terms of travel and tourism, and also in terms of personal productivity software, right? And as you can see, the designs, the sort of thought processes are quite in line with what you would want to, sort of do, where it makes sense for you, right? So the range which actually people have exhibited is unbelievable, right? So it could be as complicated as saying that, hey, can I actually play chess? Maybe it's a chess engine. Or it could be as simple as, and probably something we do on a daily basis, how do I sort of work with PDFs, right? So I would strongly encourage people to, look at tools and probably start with Lovable, because I have personally found out Lovable's the user interface in terms of the final output, right? It's very colorful and very modern. There are certain things around prompt and prompt engineering, which again we will talk in a separate podcast, how to actually use this in vibe coding. But this is a good space because it will give you the confidence to get started on vibe coding. Then, of course, you can try a lot of other tools which are out over there, but it's just plain English, nice looking outputs, get you the confidence, use the vibe coding framework, and you're all set. Okay. Thank you so much, Amsal.
Thanks, Chandru. One last word. So, thank you so much for sharing the tool as well. And for all our listeners out there, you want to venture out in vibe coding and get started with this tool to begin with. So, thank you so much once again for your time. And hopefully, we'll catch up soon on our next podcast.
We'll do that. Thank you so much, Amsal. Thanks for the time. Goodbye.
Bye bye.